Looking down at the twilight cityscape from a Manhattan high-rise, Margaret Clark let out a soft sigh. Another birthday she would spend alone. As she gazed at her reflection in the window, she swiped through her tablet to check her final investment proposal. As one of Wall Street's most successful young investment advisors, Margaret's reputation was rock solid. Her talent for moving hundreds of millions in assets annually and delivering stable returns for her clients was widely recognized in the industry. Yet despite her professional success, Margaret's relationship with her family had remained cold for years. Today especially, on her birthday, the loneliness she always felt pressed more heavily on her heart. Opening her desk drawer, Margaret took out an old photograph. On the morning of her 10th birthday, she had woken up expecting a special breakfast, only to find that her parents had already left for her sister Patricia's piano competition. A note left on the table simply read, "Breakfast in the fridge. Don't be late for school." Reminiscing again? Jennifer, her secretary, walked in carrying materials for the meeting room. Margaret hastily tucked the photo back into the drawer and composed her professional expression. "It's your special day, isn't it?" "Happy birthday," Jennifer offered a small package. "Thank you for remembering," Margaret smiled, her eyes a little misty. "I can't believe someone other than family is celebrating my birthday." "Your family, they forgot again this year?" Margaret shook her head. "I don't think they forgot. It's just not important to them." Her cell phone rang, with a mother displayed on the screen. Margaret gave Jennifer a small nod and answered. "Hey, Maggie," her mother Elizabeth's voice sounded rushed. No one else called her Maggie. "Could you help me out today?" Margaret closed her eyes. "What is it, Mom?" "I'm terribly busy with preparations for Patty's fashion show. Her brand, Patricia Elegance, has been selected for a national exhibition for the first time. But I'm nowhere near finished with the house cleaning. And Emma is coming home early from school, so someone needs to look after her." Elizabeth continued talking, but memories were flashing through Margaret's mind. On her 15th birthday, she had planned to attend a high school dance but was suddenly asked to help with Patricia's drama presentation. On her 18th birthday, instead of celebrating her college scholarship, she was sent shopping for Patricia's graduation party. At 25, when she received her first major promotion, the family dinner ended up being Patricia's engagement celebration instead. And today, her 32nd birthday would be no exception. "So, could you watch Emma until evening? And if possible, help with the house cleaning too?" As Margaret gazed out the window, she recalled the reality she secretly supported. When her father Arthur's business faced bankruptcy, she was the one who anonymously provided funds. She was also quietly paying for her mother Elizabeth's art club membership and activities. And it was actually Margaret who had provided the startup capital for Patricia's creative fashion brand and supplied design inspiration. The family didn't know that their comfortable lifestyle was entirely supported by Margaret's success, despite being treated as if she barely existed. "Of course, I'll come," Margaret answered quietly. "What time should I be there?" After hanging up, she stood and looked at her reflection in the window once more. "Jennifer, cancel my afternoon appointments. Family emergency." Saying this, Margaret picked up her bag. Arriving at the Clark family's suburban mansion, Margaret unlocked the front door. This house where she once lived now felt like a foreign place. Family photos adorned the living room, but most featured Patricia, her parents, and her niece Emma. Margaret appeared in only one, a group photo from Patricia's wedding, where she was barely visible at the edge. "Aunt Maggie." Emma's bright voice echoed through the house as she ran down from the second floor. Now 12 years old, Patricia's only daughter had always been open with Margaret, unlike her mother. She jumped into Margaret's arms for a tight hug. "How have you been, Emma?" Margaret smiled genuinely for the first time in a while. "Good. You know, Aunt," Emma said, looking slightly shy as she hid her hands behind her back, "I know today is a special day." Margaret blinked in surprise. "You do?" Emma brought her hands forward, presenting a colorful handmade card. Happy birthday, Aunt Maggie. The card was decorated with colorful flowers and balloons, with childish handwriting that read, Happy birthday to the world's best aunt. Margaret was speechless, tears welling in her eyes. Emma, how did you remember? I marked it on my calendar, Emma said proudly. Last year, you gave me such a nice present for my birthday, so I wanted to make your birthday special too. Margaret hugged the card to her chest and gently stroked Emma's hair. This is the best present I've received today. Thank you so much. Hey, we're supposed to clean today, right? Emma asked energetically. I'll help. And I want to see your work too. My work? Yes. Dad said you work with stocks on amazing computers. You have an office at home, don't you? Margaret thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I'll show you after we finish cleaning. As they began cleaning the house, Emma chatted continuously. She talked about school, her friends, and family matters, Patricia's new fashion line debut, Father Arthur's new business contract, Mother Elizabeth winning an award at her art club. Everyone's so successful, Margaret said quietly. Yes. But you know, Emma lowered her voice, Mom and Dad always fight about money. I heard Grandpa's company was in trouble before, but suddenly got better. Margaret nodded silently, remembering the $5 million she had anonymously invested when her father's company was on the brink of collapse. After cleaning, Emma begged to see Margaret's home office. The room on the second floor was equipped with the latest computer systems and monitors, displaying real-time Wall Street trading screens. Wow, amazing. Emma looked around the room excitedly. Aunt, you really are rich. Margaret smiled wryly. There are things more important than money, Emma. Like what? Love? Emma asked, slightly embarrassed. Yes, love is important. But for me, being independent is just as important. As Emma examined the shelves in the office, she accidentally dropped a file. While collecting the scattered papers, her expression changed. Aunt, are these documents for Grandpa's company? Margaret quickly tried to take the papers from Emma's hands, but it was too late. Emma had found an investment certificate with Margaret's name on it. Margaret Clark, anonymous investor. Emma read aloud in surprise. You invested in Grandpa's company? Margaret exhaled deeply and sat down. Emma, this is complicated adult business. But the curious Emma continued exploring and opened another file. It contained trademark registrations and original designs for Patricia Elegance, all signed by Margaret. Mom's brand too, you created it? Emma's eyes widened in astonishment. Margaret shrugged resignedly. Patricia lacked practical business sense. I just helped a little. But why don't you tell everyone? Mom always says she designed everything herself. Margaret looked at Emma, considering how to explain. It's for the family's happiness. They're happy living without knowing about my help. That's fine. Emma frowned. But, what about you? Are you happy? Margaret couldn't answer that question. Instead, she stood up and opened a hidden safe. She took out more documents and records, donations to her mother's art club, behind-the-scenes funding for Patricia's wedding, proof of payments for her father's medical bills, all done anonymously or under dummy company names. Why would you do all this? Emma asked in a small voice. Margaret gazed out the window and quietly answered, when I was 10, my father told me, be a person of practical value. I didn't understand what he meant then, but as an adult, I do now. To them, my existence is valuable only for practical purposes. Not for love or recognition. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She ran to Margaret and hugged her tightly. That's not true. You're amazing. We need to tell everyone. It's okay, Emma, Margaret said, stroking her niece's head. This is the path I've chosen. Emma stepped back and stared at Margaret. Her eyes showed a determination unusual for a child. "Today is your birthday. Let's make it a special night," Emma suddenly suggested. "Let's do something wonderful before everyone comes home." Margaret tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Emma smiled. There was a hint of mischief in her smile. "First, show me all your documents. And then." Margaret, though puzzled, was moved by the determination in Emma's eyes. She slowly nodded and began taking more documents from the safe. "Are you sure about this?" Margaret looked anxiously at Emma. They stood before a pile of documents transported from Margaret's home office. Dozens of envelopes, files, and USB drives were stacked on the living room sofa. "Yes, absolutely," Emma answered with a confident expression. "It's time everyone knew what you've been quietly supporting for years." Margaret took a deep breath. For 32 years, she had lived in her family's shadow, unrecognized and valued only for her practical usefulness. Emma's proposal was dangerous and impulsive, but somehow liberating. It might be an opportunity to release the pain she had carried for years. "Where should we start?" Emma placed her small hand on Margaret's arm. "First, with Grandpa's company documents. Let's put them on the wall." They began using the large living room wall. Evidence of how Margaret had saved her father Arthur's company, Clark Enterprises, from bankruptcy, anonymous investment transfer records, reconstruction plans, and business strategy documents filled with her ideas. All bore Margaret's signature and seal. She arranged them chronologically, placing the bank transfer record showing the $5 million rescue fund in the center. "Look at this too." Emma opened Margaret's laptop and displayed her father's emails. "I know Dad's email password." "Emma, that's..." "It's okay. It's not wrong. We're just finding out the truth." The screen showed emails exchanged between Arthur and Patricia. "Don't worry about Margaret. She's just a cash cow. Just contact her when we need something." Grandpa said such things? Margaret choked on her words. Emma nodded quietly. "Let's print this out and post it too." Then, Mom's brand documents. Next, they displayed materials related to Patricia's fashion brand, Patricia Elegance, Margaret's initial design drafts, the $2 million startup funding transfer in her name, and trademark registration documents. Emma also connected her mother's computer to speakers to play an audio file. "This is a recording of Mom talking to Grandma," Emma explained in a low voice. When the recording played, Patricia's voice filled the room. "I borrowed another of Margaret's designs. She won't notice, and even if she says something, no one would believe her anyway. This is our secret, Mom." Followed by Elizabeth's laughter. "That girl is always useful. But we must never let her take center stage." Margaret nearly collapsed into a chair. She had sensed her family was using her, but never knew they spoke about it so blatantly. Emma silently took Margaret's hand and nodded firmly. "Let's get Grandma's art club documents too." The third target was Mother Elizabeth. Wall displays now showed her high-end art club membership fees, event sponsorships, and charitable donations made in her name, all actually funded by Margaret. One more interesting thing, Emma took out her smartphone. Everyone said they were busy today, but actually. She opened an Instagram page showing a photo posted a few hours earlier. Patricia, Elizabeth, and Arthur toasting at a luxury restaurant. The caption read, "Celebrating a special day, new contract signed." While telling Margaret they needed her for cleaning and babysitting, the family was enjoying a lavish lunch. "Print this too," Margaret said quietly. Her voice was cold and determined. Emma activated the printer and printed out social media posts one after another. The dresses Patricia boasted as her original designs were all originally Margaret's sketches. They posted these next to Margaret's original drafts. And finally, Margaret returned to the office and took the last documents from the safe. They were legal papers in a thick envelope. "This completes it," Margaret placed 2 documents on the coffee table in the living room. One was a 32-year support fund repayment demand. It calculated all the amounts she had provided to support her father's company, her sister's brand launch, her mother's artistic activities, and the family's luxurious lifestyle, with interest. The total was an astonishing figure, $12 million. The other document was a Patricia Elegance intellectual property infringement lawsuit, legal papers demanding that all rights to the brand be returned to Margaret, along with evidence of stolen designs. "And, are you really going to submit these to court?" Emma asked, looking a bit frightened. Margaret smiled quietly. "No, Emma. This is a warning to them. To show what could happen if I got serious. Whether I actually file them or not depends on their reaction." They looked around the living room. The once elegant room had been transformed into an exhibition of truth. Evidence of 32 years of betrayal and exploitation covered every wall. "Perfect," Margaret murmured with satisfaction. "But what now? Are you planning to be here when they return?" Emma shook her head. "No, we don't need to be here. The evidence will speak for itself." "Then where are we going?" "To your Manhattan apartment," Emma said excitedly. "I've never been there. And today is your birthday. Let's celebrate together." Margaret looked at Emma with a surprised expression. "You want to come with me?" "But your mother wouldn't allow it." Emma took out a small bag. "I'm already prepared. I told Grandma and Mom I'm going to see a movie with Aunt Maggie. Don't worry, I may be 12, but I'm responsible." Margaret couldn't help but smile. This girl was certainly mature for her age. One last thing, Emma stood in the center of the living room and unfolded a large piece of paper. On it, she had written in large letters, "My family never celebrated my birthday for 32 years. But when they came home that night, they were left speechless. Let's hang this at the entrance." And Emma manipulated Margaret's laptop. "I've turned on the house security cameras to record the living room. We can see their reaction later." Margaret looked at her niece with an impressed expression. "You have a promising future." "I take after you," Emma answered proudly. They took one final look at the living room. The room filled with evidence of truth seemed as if 32 years of silence were about to speak all at once. Margaret took a deep breath and headed for the entrance. "Let's go," she said, looking at the paper labeled, "Birthday Surprise," hanging on the door. As Margaret and Emma left the house, the twilight sky was painted a vibrant orange. With a sense of a new beginning, they got into the car. "Let's go to Manhattan. We'll have a real birthday party." Emma nodded with a big smile. "I hope today becomes the best birthday of your life, Aunt." After Margaret's car drove away, the house was quietly enveloped in darkness. What a truly wonderful night. "Patricia, this collection will definitely be a success." Elizabeth Clark spoke enthusiastically as she stood at the entrance to the Clark mansion. Just past 10 at night, the 3 family members had returned home filled with exhilaration. They had spent the day celebrating the success of Patricia's fashion show and Arthur's company's new contract. "Let's toast with champagne tonight," Arthur said with satisfaction. "How's Emma doing?" "Probably sleeping. Maggie should be looking after her," Patricia responded indifferently. "By the way, did she contact you? Did she clean the house properly?" Elizabeth shrugged. "Don't worry about Maggie. She always does exactly what she's told." When Arthur opened the living room door and turned on the lights, the 3 of them froze in place. What on earth? The living room walls were covered with documents, photos, and printouts. In the center hung a large paper with bold letters staring at them accusingly. "My family never celebrated my birthday for 32 years. But when they came home that night, they were left speechless." "What is all this?" Elizabeth asked with a trembling voice. Arthur stepped into the room and grabbed one of the documents on the wall. It was a certificate of the $5 million anonymous investment in his company. In the sender's name section was Margaret Clark's signature. Margaret, invested in my company? What are you talking about, Dad? Patricia tried to laugh, but her smile quickly froze. She noticed the original designs for her brand. Sketches signed by Margaret were posted alongside her original designs. This is a prank. Just delusions from Maggie's jealousy, Patricia desperately tried to make excuses. But at that moment, her own voice echoed through the room. I borrowed another of Margaret's designs. She won't notice, and even if she says something, no one would believe her anyway. The recorded conversation had started playing automatically. The blood drained from Patricia's face. This is not true. Elizabeth's eyes fell on the legal documents placed on the coffee table. Under the heading, 32-year support fund repayment demand, was a list of enormous amounts. Her hands began to tremble. $12 million? This must be a joke. What? Arthur almost snatched the document from his wife's hands. His face reddened with anger. Has that girl lost her mind? Such a ridiculous thing. Just then, a smartphone notification sounded, and all three checked their phones simultaneously. A message from Margaret had arrived. Have you seen the recording? The security camera is recording the living room. Your reactions too. All evidence has been sent to my lawyer. You have two choices. Think carefully about what you'll do now. Patricia looked around the room in confusion. When she noticed the security camera in the corner of the ceiling, she involuntarily stepped back. Emma? Where is Emma? She suddenly cried out, remembering her daughter. Another message arrived. Emma is with me. Don't worry. She's safe. Maggie kidnapped Emma? Patricia's voice trembled. A third message came in. It's not kidnapping. Emma is with me of her own will. Here's a video message from her. When they opened the attached video, Emma's face filled the screen. In the background, a night view from a high-rise building was visible. Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa. I'm with Aunt Maggie. Don't worry. But today I learned for the first time how amazing she is. You've all been using her, haven't you? The money, the ideas, everything belongs to her. But you never once celebrated her birthday. Why? Aunt is. Emma's voice broke, and she wiped away tears. Aunt is actually kind, smart, and wonderful. I've decided to stay with her for a while. Until you all reflect on what you've done. Goodbye. When the video ended, the room was enveloped in heavy silence. This is blackmail, Elizabeth was the first to speak. We should call the police. Then all this evidence would become public too, Arthur said with a bitter expression. Margaret isn't stupid. If she's gone to such elaborate lengths, she must have prepared an escape route. Patricia collapsed onto the sofa. What will happen to my brand? If this becomes public, it's over. They'll say it's plagiarism. At that moment, Arthur received an urgent contact from a company director. We've been contacted by an anonymous investor. They mentioned the possibility of withdrawing funds. Is this related? Meanwhile, Elizabeth's smartphone received a message from the art club chairperson. The donor has revealed their identity and requested a temporary suspension of funding. Is there a problem? The three looked at each other. Margaret's trap wasn't just a threat. She had already begun taking action. We need to contact Maggie, Patricia said hurriedly. Apologize, do something. As she was about to make a call, a final message arrived. Please don't contact me tonight. For 32 years, I have always been on standby for you all. Tonight is my birthday. I will contact you through my lawyer tomorrow. Arthur pressed his forehead with a trembling hand. What have we done? As they stood there at a loss, the doorbell suddenly rang. They all headed to the door with tense expressions. When they opened it, there stood the mother of Emma's best friend, Sophia. "Good evening. I've come to pick up Emma." "What?" Patricia asked with a confused look. "Didn't Emma tell you? She's supposed to stay at our house tonight. I got a message from her saying that Margaret is busy today, so she's coming to Sophia's house." The three were speechless. Margaret and Emma had planned everything. That night, the Clark family couldn't sleep. Faced with the evidence of truth spread throughout the living room, they were forced to reflect on their actions for the first time. The fact that they had been using Margaret for 32 years. The reality that without her, their luxurious lifestyle would not have been possible. And most painfully, the simple but cruel fact that they had never celebrated her birthday. The next morning, Patricia entered her daughter's bedroom. On Emma's desk lay an open calendar. May 21st was marked with a red heart and the words, "Aunt Maggie's birthday." Next to it, in small letters, was a note that read, "What is family?" Tears fell from Patricia's eyes. She was beginning to understand the gravity of what they had done. On the top floor of a Chicago high-rise, Margaret was gazing at the city view from the window of her new office, where the logo, Margaret Clark Consulting, shone brightly. 5 months had passed since that night. Her life had changed dramatically. She had established her long-dreamed-of company and had already handled numerous successful cases. Requests for her services never ceased, and corporations that once borrowed Margaret's ideas now paid high fees for her knowledge and talent. On her desk lay a recent letter from Emma, with photos and detailed updates about the family. Arthur had lost most of his company and was starting over with a small workshop. Elizabeth had lost her position at the high-end art club and instead begun volunteering as an art teacher at the local community center. Patricia had taken the biggest hit. Her brand had collapsed, but she had started creating a new small-scale collection with her own ideas for the first time. "They're starting to change, especially Mom," Emma had written. "Mom cries every night. Looking at your photo and saying, 'How could I have done this?' Grandpa and Grandma are experiencing normal people's lives for the first time after a complete reversal from their luxurious lifestyle." Margaret sighed and set the letter aside. All legal measures had ended in settlement. She hadn't ultimately destroyed her family. She had drastically reduced the repayment amount and agreed to a 10-year installment plan. "Margaret, your visitors have arrived," her secretary's voice echoed. She turned in surprise. She had no appointment scheduled today. "Who is it?" "Emma Clark." "And?" The secretary seemed to hesitate a bit. "Your family members are with her." Margaret stood frozen in place. Since that night, she hadn't met her family directly. All communication had been through lawyers. She had continued exchanging letters only with Emma. "Show them in." The door opened, and Emma came rushing in first. "Aunt Maggie." Margaret embraced her niece with a smile. Behind her, Patricia, Elizabeth, and Arthur entered nervously. They were clearly tense. Their former arrogant attitude was completely gone, replaced by deep remorse. "Maggie." "Margaret," Elizabeth spoke first. "This is from us to you." She offered a small box. When Margaret opened it, inside was a photograph and a small cake. The photo was from her 5th birthday, the only record of a happy birthday, showing her smiling with the entire family. "Today is your birthday," Arthur choked up. "Happy 33rd birthday." "We can't make up for 32 years, Patricia said with tears in her eyes. "But if you can forgive us, we'd like to start over." Margaret felt overwhelmed by waves of emotion. Forgiveness wouldn't be easy. But the family standing before her were no longer the arrogant figures of the past, but people sincerely reflecting and trying to change. "A real family," Margaret said quietly, "values each other always, not just when in trouble. That's all I ever wanted." She slowly reached for the cake. "Just promise me one thing." From now on, call me Margaret, not Maggie. Emma clapped her hands in delight. Then let's sing. Happy birthday, Aunt Margaret. In the light of the sunset streaming through the window, Margaret's 33rd birthday was celebrated with her family. It was the beginning of a new relationship, the first step in a long healing process. Not complete forgiveness, but a day of resolve to take a new step forward as equals.